booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to be going through my next RuPaul's Drag Queen for my Drag Queen TBR game. The one I picked out for this time was Vanessa Vanjie Mateo, Ms. Vanjie. And she is the comeback queen, and so I had to pick a sequel. So I'm going to tell you about the book I read for the sequel after I tell you about one of the other books, because I read the first book and then the sequel. So this time for my judge I picked Michelle Visage, and it was to pick a book about friendship. I'd recently picked up some books, some graphic novels for my daughter that I thought she would enjoy, and they were a trilogy, and so I thought for friendship I would read the first one, and then to fulfill the prompt of a sequel I would read the second one. So the first one is called Awkward. It's by Svetlana Chmakova. This graphic novel was so lovely. It's about Peppy, and it's her first day at middle school, and it's a new school for her. She doesn't know anyone, and she falls over and drops all of her things, and everyone is laughing at her. A boy steps down to try and help her get her things together, and she realizes that the people start laughing even harder. They start making nerd jokes and about him having a nerdy girlfriend, and she realizes that maybe he is quite low on the pecking order too, and so she pushes him and tells him to get lost. We then skip forward, and she's more settled. She seems to have made friends, and she's always felt really uncomfortable and horrible about the way she treated this boy, and she wants to apologize, but she's not sure how, and she's really scared. She's part of an art club, and she loves doing art, so she's joined the art club, and this boy is part of their sort of rival club, the science club, and they've been told that only one of them will be allowed to sort of participate in this club fair, which is a big deal, and the science club has taken the art club's spot, and so it makes them angry, and then there is sort of a competition really to see who can have the spot at this fair. So this book really explores friendship, it explores doing the right thing, and it explores sort of finding your way in school and finding the right people for you and being kind to other people who may be different from you. I really loved this one, and I gave it 4 stars. I then moved on to the second in the series, which is Brave, and this follows a different character that we see on the sidelines in the first, but now he becomes the star of the show. This follows Jensen. Jensen is also in the art club like Peppy, and so we've seen him in the first book very briefly. He's struggling to fit in. He feels like he's found his group in the art club, but he doesn't really realise that people aren't very kind to him. He wants to find a way to be useful, and he always feels like he's kind of left out and kind of on the periphery, and he just wants to be a help. He just wants to have friends, and he ends up helping some girls who are on the newspaper, and they're really headstrong girls. They really sort of know their stuff, and they ask him for help with a project that they're doing, which turns out to open Jensen's eyes in more than one way. He doesn't actually realise that what's happening to him is bullying. It's so small and slight, and some of the things that are happening he's got so used to happening that he thinks he doesn't realise that the people that he thinks are his friends are actually bullying him in some way, and it isn't until these girls sort of point it out to him that he starts to realise and needs to work out a way to be brave and stand up for himself. I really loved this, and I thought it was a brilliant sequel, and great to see this character, and great to see his sort of character progression, and also the way he deals with things at the end, and the progression from the other characters in terms of their learning and growth on how to be a good friend. So I gave this one 4 stars too. Okay, next for challenge I picked Quick Drag, a book under 300 pages, and I picked across, excuse me while I get the dog's toy, and I picked Across the Green Grass Fields by Shauna Maguire. This is her next book in the Wayward Children series, and I am really loving this series, and so that's why it was such a shame that this one didn't end up being a favourite for me. Our main character Reagan has found a doorway into another place, and this all stems from something that happens at school. It's really upsetting. She learns something about herself, and so she has this big argument with her best friend, and she ends up finding her way into this other world. She's obsessed with horses, and this world is full of centaurs and unicorns and kelpies, and she's told that as this human, anytime a human comes, they have to go and see the queen and go on some sort of quest to save the kingdom, but there's no sort of rules on when she has to do that, and so she lives for a number of years with the centaurs that find her, and she finds a family and a home, and she finds a way of living, and we sort of learn about some of the other characters. I don't know, I just felt the pacing of this book was a bit off. We had this long time, and then finally it sort of wrapped up in just the smallest amount of time, and it felt like a bit of a cop-out, and we didn't get as much from the end as I was hoping. And I just felt like the pacing was a bit off. It felt like a bit more of a love letter to sort of horses, and I wish there had been more growth there with our character in accepting herself. And yeah, I don't know, it just didn't quite hit the mark like all the other books in these series have. So this one was a 3 stars. And then the final book was Category is Green, a book with green on the cover. Well, this one couldn't get any more green if it tried, and it's Wicked Sexy Liar by Christina Lauren. This is, I think, the 4th book in this series. It was the final one that I had to read, and so I'm pleased that I got to this one. This series is following a group of girls, and the first girls were went into these sort of marriages that they did when they were drunk in Vegas, and this character, who's the main one in here, London, is a girl who lives with one of those characters, so she wasn't involved directly in the shenanigans of the first books. London is finished university. She's a trained sort of graphic designer, but she doesn't do much with that. She is doing very small jobs just to build up a portfolio in the hope to sort of start a business, and she works in a pub, and she does a lot of you know, pub work and waitressing work, and she likes to surf. One day she meets Luke, and both her and Luke are very similar. They don't get involved in relationships. They tend to have these one-night stands, and that is what happens. And they both realise that perhaps more is going on here. They aren't quite ready to say goodbye to each other, and there's this sort of banter between them and this easiness, and so there brings turmoil because both of them have their reasons not for wanting to start relationships and for wanting to be on their own and not trusting people. Luke has a past, and his ex-girlfriend, who is part of his reason, is a member of this group previous, the friends that I was discussing. And so anyway, the story unravels. It's your sort of typical romance. It was really good, but it just wasn't my favourite in the series. One thing I really liked in this book is the sibling and familial relationship of Luke. His and his sister have got great banter between the two of them, and I love that relationship so much. It's a really strong sibling relationship between an older sister and younger brother, and I really loved to see that, and the fact that Luke would do anything for his family, and they're heavily involved in the story, I thought was a real pleasure to read. So there was bits of this that I really enjoyed, but ultimately it didn't sort of blow me away, and so I gave this one 3 stars. So that ended up being 2 4 stars, which is 8, 2 3 stars, which is 6, and by my calculations 8 plus 6 is 14. So that isn't enough for Miss Vanjie to Shantae stay. She's going to have to lip sync for her life. Let me go and get the cards, and we can pick what she's going to have to lip sync. Okay, I've got my cards. I'm not looking. I'm going to shut my eyes. I'm going to pick one random one. Okay, Woman Up by Meghan Trainor, a book with a female main character. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's go and find one. Okay, this works well. I'm reading it for another TBR. So this is, oh, I haven't started it yet, but I will be reading it for another TBR. The Initiation by Nikki Sloan. This is about the Hale family. I think they're sort of super rich. There's some initiation ceremony. It says, whispers how 1 woman and 9 men disappear into a boardroom. This time that woman will be me. So we will find out a bit more about this. I don't know much. It's part of the Filthy Rich Americans series. I've heard great things about it. So this will be my female main character. I'm hoping she'll be a strong one. I'm sure she will be. So I'll come back when I've read this and let you know if Miss Vanjie gets to stay or not. Catch up with you soon. Okay, so I'm back. It's a day later, and I've read The Initiation by Nikki Stone, which was for my Woman Up by Meghan Trainor book with a female main character. Oh, this was not for me. Yeah, our main character, Marist, is part of a family. Her father works for this biggest company, this biggest banking company in their area, sort of a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company. It's very old school boys club. And there's always been this understanding that one of the daughters, well, the oldest daughter, Marist's older sister, would marry Royce, the older son of the CEO of this company. And that doesn't happen for various reasons, and Marist gets paired with him. And you'd think it'd be sort of like a hate to love or something like that, but this just took a really icky turn for me. There's this initiation, hence the title, for Royce to get on the board of directors. Every person that wants to go on the board of directors has to go through this initiation, and it just made me feel disgusted. It wasn't at all sexy, or yeah, it left me feeling really vile, and I didn't like. I think we're meant to think, oh, isn't Marist strong for going through this to sort of get what she wants? But I just felt like it was abuse, and it left me really disgusted, and I just didn't like it at all. I don't want to say what it is in case you want to read it yourself, but I can't say I recommend it personally. And this is coming from me, and I'm not someone who's squeamy. Like, I quite like some different dark taboo books. But this one wasn't even dark and taboo. It just didn't make sense why they would do this initiation. And I didn't like it at all. Like, no. No. Yeah, no. So I gave this one 2 stars, which I think was quite generous, really. But I did quite like the other elements of the story, just didn't like that at all. And I don't like this obsession with, yeah, I didn't like it. So 2 stars. So unfortunately, that means that Miss Vanjie only ends up with 15, 17, which isn't enough to stay. So I'm sorry, Miss Vanjie, but you need to sashay away. So with Miss Vanjie sashayed away, I will go and pick my next TBR. I think we're down to like the final 4 to go through in this first round, and then I will be moving on to like the All-Stars cast, the ones that were allowed to stay, and we will hopefully whittle it down to a final one. I'll have to work out how I'm going to do that. So watch this space for an All-Stars season 1. But yeah, this one was okay. There were some ups and downs, but yeah, Miss Vanjie will be sashaying away, and I look forward to seeing you when I've picked my next one. Bye for now, BookTube.